We have this and we have this. Which one do we want to use? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Cooking with Rabbi. This is, once again, we're live. It's been a while since we've been live, and here we are. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to start first with giving tzedakah, which is our usual way of starting. I'm going to invite you to join me with tzedakah, if you have a tzedakah box. Otherwise, you want to go into the virtual tzedakah box, which is in the chat. Okay. I have a special guest tonight. Her name is Susie Fishman. Susie Fishman has a company called Meet My Kneads. And being from England and loving puns, Meet My Kneads is spelled K, with a K. And we're going to talk about that soon a little bit. And tonight we're going to be making some lentil soup. And we're calling it all Shuk up lentil soup, S-H-U-K. We're going to talk about that too. So welcome, Susie, and thank you very much for joining me.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Just to mention some kind of little bit of business, we want this to be interactive. So if you are on Zoom or if you're on Facebook, you can like us, you can comment, write any questions in the chat. You can unmute yourself and ask me questions or Susie questions, and we'll try and answer all the questions. The recipe is found either on the Jewish Daily Dose WhatsApp or on email. If you haven't signed up for any of those, great idea to sign up because you'll get updates and all kinds of information about our Torah classes, interviews, and shows. And you can sign up by sending an email to shira@chabadpaloalto.com. If you'd like to email just to get the recipe, that's fine too. We're on Facebook Live, so we'd love to have you show your faces, but if you're concerned that you're going to be seen on Facebook, you might want to be aware of that. All right, Susie, let's get started, and then we'll talk about all the questions I have for you. But I want to first get started. What's the first thing we should do to get things on the road?
Wonderful. Well, so the thing I always do when I start cooking or baking is I do something called mise en place. And that just means everything in its place. And it means I've sort of prepped all of the materials ahead of time so that I can just assemble and make it super easy for myself, very stress-free. So we're going to walk through all the different ingredients. And the first thing we're going to do is turn on our big soup pot. We want one that can handle a few quarts of soup.
Okay.
And we're going to put some olive oil in and heat it to medium high. First step.
Just the olive oil by itself?
Just the olive oil is going to be warming up. And I'm going to be cooking along with you.
Okay,
and
great. At about a half a cup of olive oil, right?
Actually, a quarter cup of olive oil.
Okay.
Even seems like a lot in a soup, but the olive oil really adds a richness to the taste of the soup, and it's absolutely delicious. And also, olive oil is very healthful. So it's a great way to start. And I'm just going to turn on my stovetop to medium high. We're warming the olive oil first because we're going to be sauteing some vegetables.
How big was the pot? I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, so here's my pot. You can see it. It's a pretty big pot. It can probably 4 or 5 quart pot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It's good also to leave yourself a little extra room. So if you have a larger pot, that's fine too. This way you don't worry that it's going to spill over.
Okay, so the olive oil is warming. What's next?
Oil's warming. So now we get to chop the vegetables. The first thing we're going to do is chop up about 5 or 6 large carrots and 1 medium to large onion. And you can just chop it up into pieces that look about this size.
Okay, so we're going to start by about this many?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, I'm going to rinse them and I'm going to peel them. We're going to do everything from scratch here.
That's right.
Cooking. Let me just turn the fire down on the oil.
Yeah, you can turn it down until a little bit before you want to put those onions.
We don't want to burn it. So
Yeah.
let me quickly peel these. Is it visible? Here.
So the carrots, I always like to use fresh organic carrots, the big carrots. I don't use baby carrots because I find they don't have a lot of taste. Do you find that as well?
I don't use a lot of carrots, but I think you're probably right. The baby carrots, by the time they finish with them and the processing them, I always prefer to use everything from scratch, fresh from
Right.
scratch. Possible.
So the fresh, the really big fresh, or even the loose carrots you find in the grocery store are really the best because the carrots really add a sweetness to this lentil soup. So it makes
Have to tell you that when you decided to do a red lentil soup, I couldn't help but think about the history of red lentil soup. You know how far back this history goes? Of red lentil soup?
I'd love to know. I don't know this.
You know that when Jacob bought the birthright from Esau, so he kind of, Esau considered that he cheated him out of it. But what happened was that Esau was out in the field and he had just murdered King Nimrod. He had become a murderer. And he came home. And at that time, Abraham had died on that day. So Yaakov and Yitzchak were sitting Shiva. And when you sit Shiva, it's customary to eat round things like eggs or lentil soup.
Oh.
Round, the thing about beans and eggs, they're round, just like the person who is mourning has no mouth, he can't speak really, he's quiet, or she's quiet. The same thing, the lentils have no mouth, or the eggs. And also it represents the cycle of life, birth and death. It's all part of the cycle of life. And therefore it's customary for people who are in mourning to eat eggs, boiled eggs, or lentils. So Yaakov was making a pot of red lentil soup. And Esau came in and he said, pour some of that red stuff down my throat. And Yaakov saw his opportunity and said, sell me your birthright and I'll give it to you. And he sold his birthright for a pot of lentil soup. So a pot of lentil soup is so meaningful in Jewish tradition that we got the birthright because of a pot of lentil soup. Imagine that.
Wow. That just elevated my lentil soup to new great heights. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that.
Tell me about this soup. What's special to you about this soup?
Well, for me, I feel like every single ingredient in this soup is healthy. And so when I make it for my family, I just know that I'm giving them the most nutrient-packed meal I possibly could. It's also a great soup because it's really made from things I have on hand anyway. So it's very easy to put together at a moment's notice. It's also very hearty. It's almost thick like a stew. So it's a very, very hearty soup. And you can, a lot of times I'll just serve this soup with some fresh challah, and that's dinner. So I love it. Plus this recipe actually yields a lot of soup. So you can have it for leftovers as well.
So let's talk now a little bit about challah, because the name of your company is Meet My Kneads, and we don't need soup with a K. We need challah and dough. So tell me about challah. Sounds like you're about a kind of an expert on challah.
Well, I say I'm learning, and I love challah, and I certainly love sharing challah with friends and sharing the process of making challah. And Meet My Kneads really came about because I wanted to build community within the Jewish community. And challah is such a delicious way to start a conversation and to connect with other people and to elevate a meal. And so I found that starting with challah and sharing recipes and sharing the process and sharing the actual success of a beautiful baked challah really helped me get to know a lot of different people in the Jewish community across the world, not even just in Palo Alto. And so from that, it grew into, it's kind of a play on words now, because I started a company called Meet My Kneads, and the company is a for-purpose company in that we have created a line of kosher spice blends, and we're selling them. 100% of the profits goes to people who are in need. So it's a little bit of a play on words. We're addressing food insecurity and people who are hungry by donating 100% of our proceeds to them. But we're also building community and helping people get to know each other by focusing on making bread. And I like to add spice blends to my bread. So that's how it all comes together.
I got to tell you, I got a preview whiff of the spices
Oh, yeah?
used today. They smell so good. It's such a great mixture.
Oh, thank
It
you.
smells wonderful. Am I doing the right thing here?
Yes, terrific. Wonderful. Just chop them up into bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
And later on, you'll see that they'll soften. And so when the last step in the process is really to blend a little bit of the soup. So in the end, some of those carrots will get sort of ground up and become more of the thickener or body of the soup. And some of those carrots will stay bite-sized pieces that are just part of the vegetables in the soup. Beautiful.
So, Susie, where do you get Aleppo pepper? And
Oh,
what exactly?
pepper, you could use, I get all of my spices, a lot of them online from a kosher purveyor, but you can use cayenne pepper.
Is that how hot Aleppo is?
Yeah, it's just a very spicy pepper, so you don't use too much of it, but it's very delicious, very kind of sweet but spicy pepper.
Yeah. So this is funny. I made a red lentil soup today myself.
Oh, you did? That's fantastic.
Yeah, I have a recipe. It's the red lentils, sweet potato. It has curry in it, which is similar to what you have.
Very similar. That's wonderful.
And then afterwards, you throw in a bag of spinach, or no, you put in a can of coconut milk, and a bag of spinach, and voila.
One second. We're going to afterwards ask you to make this soup, and we're going to compare the two, and you're going to tell me which one is better. How's that?
That sounds good. That sounds good.
This one, I like this recipe a lot.
It looks good to me too.
Okay, so I'm going to chop up the onion, right, and put it together with the carrots?
Yeah, just chop away on that onion. And because we're going to put it into the pot with the olive oil, and we're going to saute the onion and the carrots at the same time. The other thing that's nice about this soup is it is pretty simple because you can do things not in separate steps, but kind of together. So the onions and the carrots can just go in that olive oil and start to saute together. Very simple.
Susan, where are lentils in the supermarket? I've never had lentils.
I'm sorry, say it again about the lentils.
Where do you find them in the supermarket?
Oh, good question. So lentils are like dried little beans, and so you can find them wherever you would find chickpeas or beans or rice, any of the dry goods that you'd find lentils.
Yeah. If you
Does it come in a can or does it come in a bag?
dried.
They come in a bag.
Yeah.
Oh, so they come in a bag. Okay.
Yeah. And lentils cook up a lot more easily than other beans because they're small and, they're just easy to use.
They're very healthy. They're packed with fiber.
Yep.
The other thing is there are lentils in the store. They're called golden lentils, red lentils, green lentils. Any kind of lentils will work for this soup.
Okay, so that looks really good in the pot, sitting right there in the pot.
Yeah, it's already beautiful. Terrific. Yeah. So you just want to saute that around for a few minutes until they start to soften a little bit. And then the next thing you're going to add is the garlic. So you can start chopping up your garlic.
Okay.
So I like a lot of garlic. So we're going to use about 5 garlic cloves. But if you're not a garlic fan, then you can use less. Or if
how many garlic cloves?
I use 5 garlic cloves, and I just chop them up so that they look.
Ooh, nice.
Is that the lentils?
From Safeway. You can get these at Safeway.
We don't have Safeway in New Jersey.
Where are you?
I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, well, the stores have them.
Publix or
Yeah.
Where?
grocery store?
in New Jersey.
ShopRite in New
ShopRite,
Jersey.
Oh,
ShopRite.
yeah, we have ShopRite.
And these are kosher, so, and they're just, and also Trader Joe's has them, if you have one of those.
Yes, we do. We haven't been
No,
to Trader Joe's in a while, though.
They're not just kosher, they're very special. They're
Yeah.
biblical.
Yeah, I know, that's special. All for a pot of beans, wow.
Wow, Rabbi, I don't know if you can smell those onions cooking, but right now my onions smell absolutely delicious. And I put the garlic in, and that is just a delicious
I'll
aroma.
put the garlic in a couple of minutes. I'm just
Oh, good.
not as fast, and I didn't do anything in advance.
I know, I
like to do it.
cheated. I cheated by doing everything ahead
Yes,
of time.
no, I know. Most cooking shows, people do that. That's one of the things that's different about this one. You don't do anything in advance. Everything's done right here
Very
in real
impressed.
time.
Very impressed.
My husband does most of the cooking. He cooked up a storm this week because he knew of the snowstorm.
Oh, that's good.
He made matzo balls, chicken soup,
That's one thing I got to tell you that we don't miss.
Yeah.
chicken wings we have an air fryer, which really fries them, which are really good. And he also made pot roast and the chicken from the soup. He made chicken salad with mayonnaise, grapes.
All right, a second. You're getting me hungry. Let's focus on what we're doing here tonight. You're making me hungry.
I think everyone is
Is this okay, Susie? Is this good enough?
Yeah, that's terrific. Because again, we're going to take our immersion blender or put it in the blender, and it's going to kind of blend into the soup.
Okay, so let me put this here.
So I have an onion cooking story. You know, my bubby, when she cooked, everything had onions. She cooked onions, and of course they peel it with their hands. So I love the smell of cooking onions, but her hands always smelled like onions. So when I handle onions, I like to smell it because it reminds me of my grandmother.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, my fingers. So
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so next is very exciting part of this. Now we have our garlic, our onions, our carrots all sauteing inside, mixed up, and we get to add our spice blends. So I'm very excited to introduce you to All Shuk Up.
Tell me about All Shuk Up.
Yeah.
The word.
Right, Shuk.
It's-
Because the inspiration for it came from my roaming through the Shuk in Jerusalem.
Oh, wow.
I was on a trip there. I went for a family bar mitzvah and spent an enormous amount of time just walking through the Shuk, sampling everything, taking in all the sights and sounds. And it was so inspiring that I wanted to recreate some of that magic. And so I started researching and trying different experiments in my kitchen and created this Yemenite-inspired blend. There's a lot of turmeric in it, so it's very helpful. There's lots of, it addresses inflammation and has wonderful health properties. And there's coriander and cumin and all these delicious spices that you find in the Middle East. And so I add 2 tablespoons of the All Shuk Up. And then I'm a big French thyme fan too. I love thyme. And I can show you what it looks like here if you're not familiar with it. And I just put that in the pot and I mix it around. So it gets to know all the wonderful pieces of
How
garlic.
much am I putting? I'm putting this into the pot now.
Yeah, you
How
can
much of it?
2 tablespoons of All Shuk Up and then 1 tablespoon of thyme. And we'll just mix that around. Now
That's a
you've
lot
got
of spices.
all
Do you think, does the thyme have to be ground, or is it okay if it's dried thyme?
If it's dry, let me see what you have. Oh, yes, that's fine. Yes.
Okay.
Just, mine looks like little strands of thyme. It's beautiful, just dried, but not ground. And then, oh, that's looking very good, Rabbi. You can just mix that around. And I want you to know you've done all the hard part of the soup. Now it's just smooth
Oh,
sailing from here.
this smells really good.
I know. I'm so glad. My kitchen also smells good.
Okay, next.
The next step, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Next step, we take our 28 ounces, which is the really big size can of diced tomatoes. Sometimes people get the little cans. You just want to use 2 of those. And you don't want to drain them. Just put all of that gorgeous tomato right into the pan. Into the pot with all.
That's one thing I did in advance is I rinsed the pot. I rinsed the can.
Oh, wonderful.
Just put it right into the pot, you said?
Yes, just put it right into the pot. No reason to drain. You want all of that deliciousness to go right into the soup. Fantastic. Now just mix it around.
Susan, where do you get the Shuk spice?
Yes, the Shuk spice you can get on my website, which is called meetmykneads.com.
Meet My
Kneads, yes.
Okay.
And I can mail it to you. And if you don't find it there or don't want to go there, then you can always create your own by using turmeric and coriander and cumin, some
Just to
black
mention that
pepper.
we're putting you'll find the link in the chat.
Yes.
The link to the website in the chat.
Okay.
And by the way, I have to say, Susie, when you started working at Chabad,
Yes.
I want to talk about that a little bit. I would come in and see all these amazing spices, mixing the spices and everything. And where did you get the inspiration for these different spices and what to mix and how to mix?
Well, whenever our family travels to Israel, we always come back with something special to give to everybody else in the family. And so I have a wonderful collection of chamsas in my kitchen. So everybody knows to bring me a chamsa. But on this one particular trip, my son, who actually went to study in yeshiva for a while, came home and he brought me spice blends. And my daughter, who was also studying in Israel, came home with spice blends. So I got a chamsa and spice blends that time. And I just fell in love with all the scents of the Shuk and the food of Israel. And so from there, after that, when I traveled to Israel, I spent a lot of time studying the Shuk and taking cooking classes in Jerusalem. And it just ignited my passion, actually reignited my passion for cooking.
Remind me, I'll share one of my spice blends with you. I have a specific.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
All right, what's next? After that, the tomatoes in.
We're going to add 5 cups of vegetable broth. If you're not vegetarian.
I don't have vegetable broth or chicken broth, so you said I could substitute.
Right. What you can do is just add, I think, another 2 tablespoons of al-shukka, and then put in 5 cups of water. Okay. So that the broth is really like a al-shukka kind of broth. I'm using vegetable broth because I want to make a vegan soup. But if you wanted to make a chicken soup, you can add chicken broth. I would not add.
Should I put cold water or warm water?
Probably warm water would be fine. Any kind of water is fine. Warm water would probably, just sort of keep it going a little, keeping the cooking going a little faster.
Who's Puggle? Susie, who's Puggle?
Oh, Puggle? Puggle's our dog. We have a half beagle, half pug. We call him Puggle, and he's very sweet. And his favorite thing is challah. And so literally on Fridays when I'm baking for Shabbos, he stands in the kitchen, does not leave my side, and pretty much whines the whole day because he knows that when dinner comes, he's going to get his little tiny dog challah. I always make him a special little dog challah.
Susie, tell me why it's so important to you to go kosher. Why did you decide you get supervision and you're under the supervision of the Vada Kashrus of Northern California, Sunrise Kosher,
yes.
which I applaud greatly. But what made you decide to go for the kosher?
Well, thank you. So I really wanted to again, build community within the Jewish community. And I just embrace every aspect of it. And it just brings me closer to Judaism and to the Jewish community. And especially this whole process has brought me so much closer to Chabad. And I've learned so much. And it's one of these things where if you give, you get so much in return. It's almost, someone was telling me today, it was almost like a self-indulgence when you give. And I really wanted to provide a product that was kosher so that absolutely everyone could use it. And so I had to learn a lot and study and do my homework. And I've had an enormous amount of support from Sunrise Kosher, the Vada of Northern California. I cannot thank them enough. And also Chabad has been enormously supportive and helpful on this
Well,
journey.
it's wonderful. You know, there used to be a myth that kosher is not that good, but to have really good kosher food is so important, and we want people to understand that you can have very helpful and very wonderful tasting. Tell me about the challah. What kind of challah do you make? Do you make only plain white challah, or do you also do other kinds of challah?
Oh, wow. So there is no limit to the challah that I like to make. I'm always creating different designs and I use all of the seasonings in it. So for instance, I have a seasoning blend called Ungapachka challah. Oh, and so the names of the seasonings I also had a lot of fun with because I love Yiddish, and it just takes me back to sitting at the Shabbat table with my grandparents and hearing the Yiddish jokes go back and forth and seeing them laugh so hard, but I didn't understand a thing. But it just warms my heart. So I really wanted to incorporate some Yiddish into this project as well because it's just such a great memory. And I think a lot of Yiddish is funny. So it has kind of a sense of humor. So Ungapachka challah is like my version of everything but the bagel. And I love to put that on the challah. I also have a really fun spice blend called Meshuggah for Mexican, which has a lot of cilantro and lime and salt and garlic in it. It's delicious. And that's also fantastic on challah. So
our ancestors in Russia, I don't think our ancestors in Russia ever imagined that there would be those kinds of challah made. But it's wonderful. It's great. It's wonderful.
I know.
I have some more questions for you, but first of all, where are we up to with the soup?
Okay, so we have already added all the broth, or you created your own broth. And so now we can just put in that cup of lentils.
Okay, so a cup of lentils. I'll have to rinse them, right?
Yes, you want to rinse them and just check make sure they're all nice and clean.
So I have a cup of lentils here.
You can, a lot of people will use like a spaghetti strainer to rinse the
I have lentils. Actually.
Yeah, it makes it easy. I can show you, I'll just put my screen down. I can show you kind of what mine looks like. If you want to see it, that's what it's starting to look like. It smells so good. And also just the colors really make you, start your engines on wanting to sit down to dinner. The other thing is you could start this soup and then literally an hour later serve dinner. So it really doesn't take that much time to put together. And then you just let it simmer for 30 minutes and then you're done. So it's
lentils to the soup?
Sorry?
Should I add the lentils to the soup now?
Yeah, put those lentils right in.
And I find it interesting that you don't pre-cook them or anything.
No. Very simple because you're going to boil them. You're going to bring the soup to a boil and then turn it down to simmer for 30 minutes. And the red lentils, so this is interesting because if you used green lentils, they might stay a little harder in the soup, which is fine. But if you use the golden or the red lentils, they break down a little faster. So
I'm going to pull this forward to the forward fire.
Yeah, it's getting pretty heavy. It looks good.
That'll cook much faster because the front fire
It's a little bigger.
is a bigger fire, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so next step, and almost the last step, is you want to add 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and a pinch of either Aleppo pepper or cayenne, something a little spicy if you like spicy. And of course, the peppers and the salt is really to taste. So if you're someone who's watching your salt intake and you don't want to add salt, fine, you don't have to, or you can add less. The black pepper is delicious, and especially if it's fresh ground, it'll be a wonderful addition. And then you can make it as spicy as you like. If you're not a spicy person, then you can leave it out. But I like to add a little bit of spice. My son loves spicy food, and I want to make sure he eats as much of this soup as possible. And so I add a little bit of extra spice for him. And just mix that around.
Okay, I did about a 1/16 of a teaspoon.
That sounds good.
Well, so you can always add more, right?
You can. You definitely can. And you can always add more salt. It's true. So don't worry about that. This soup is packed with so much flavor that, you can always add a little bit of extra in the end, but you'll probably find you don't have to.
What do we do with the chickpeas?
Oh, okay. So the chickpeas come in at the end. I'm just going to take my soup pot, and what you're going to do now is just simmer that. So I'm going to put mine on a back burner because I want to show you. I have some soup that I made here yesterday, and after you simmer it for half an hour, and your kitchen is going to smell divine. The last step is to put in some chickpeas and let them cook around in there. And I take some handfuls of greens. So I know you can use spinach, you can use kale. Sometimes I just have mixed greens. Rabbi, what kind of greens do you have in your kitchen today?
This is collard greens.
That's fantastic too. So you can just chop that up into little pieces or tear it. It doesn't have to be too small. And then what you're going to do at the finishing touch is just kind of mix that in, and it's going to wilt right there.
So we got time. So we got time for that. Okay.
You don't want to do that too early because the greens will get really soggy and they won't be green anymore. So that's a last step. And so you can just sort of bring it up to a boil again, and then you're ready to serve it.
Isn't that a collard green that he has?
Yes, he has a collard green.
It's going to take a little time to cook. Collards take longer.
Yeah, collards do take longer than other greens, so I might want to put them in a little bit earlier.
You can put it a little bit earlier and let it boil in there. You can put the chickpeas in earlier too.
I think what I'll do is I'll do the collard greens. Can you see this?
Okay.
I thought that was Adam.
Just do this though, but here's what I'm going to do with the collard greens. I'm going to turn on the my light box.
Rabbi, I thought that was Adam's fig leaf.
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm going to check and see if there's any bugs here.
So tell me how you use that light box. I see you're looking for bugs.
You see, I put the vegetable on top of it, and I can see right through it. So I can see if there's any bugs or anything on it. And I just, we actually sell these in our office in the Judaica store. And that way, you're pretty sure there's no bugs. So I'm going to then, I like to use the knife rather than just chop it. So I'm going to cut this up.
That's great. And so, and what other things besides vegetables do you use the light box for?
Just for vegetables, really, for checking vegetables, lettuce, cabbage, anything that might have bugs in it. I check it all on the light table.
Oh, very nice.
Because, bugs is just about as non-kosher as pork.
Yes.
I think I told this story once before about I was listening to a program and they were talking about that everyone needs to have some, this is the problem with being a kosher vegetarian. I'm saying this tongue in cheek because I don't necessarily agree with it, but they were saying, this guy was saying that you must have animal protein in your diet, otherwise you won't have enough protein. So there was a guy who called into this program and he said, I've been a vegan all my life for many, many years and I just got tested. I got plenty of protein. He says, I hate to tell you this, but the protein you're getting is from the bugs in the salad.
Oh, wait, Rabbi, before you put the greens in, I just want to tell you one thing, because I use greens that don't need to cook a lot of time. So what I would do before you put the greens in is actually use either, I don't know if you have an immersion blender or another blender, but you want to just blend a little bit of that soup. Oh, perfect. So maybe I call it zhuzhing. So you just kind of zhuzh like 5 times.
1 second. In this house, this is a zhuzher.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, I'm glad we think alike. Now I feel better. But yeah, you just want to zhuzh about 5 times to get some of those big chunks. And then that's going to thicken your soup. And it's really to taste, if you like it more of a pureed soup, you can zhuzh extra. If you don't, you like it really super chunky, just zhuzh a little bit. But if you have like big chunks of onion, or if you see some big chunks of garlic, you want to make sure you get those. Maybe there's a big tomato. Fantastic. And you can always like run a spoon through it to make sure you got like the really big chunks. But you definitely want to keep, some of the individual vegetables there.
I think that looks pretty good.
I think so too. So
and now
your greens.
Now we have the greens?
Yeah, you can add the greens. Had you added them earlier, it would have turned the soup more of a gray color and it wouldn't have looked so delicious. It might have looked a little muddy. So you don't want to add that green color into the pureed part.
Okay, that looks pretty good. Now do we want to put we got lemon and we've got beans to put in still.
Yeah, you can put the chickpeas in, but definitely drain those and rinse them. You don't want to aquafaba your soup.
Okay.
Terrific. How's your kitchen smelling right now?
Oh, it's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing.
This is no guilt soup.
You know what? It's middle of winter. It's not like in New Jersey where you have a snowstorm, but it's still pretty chilly out there. And this is perfect for a nice winter night.
Down to 31 degrees today.
Oh my goodness.
Why do you need to rinse the chickpeas? Is it because the salt comes or what?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Why do you need to rinse the chickpeas?
Oh, I just like to get the aquafaba off. That's, just, and if there's some skins on the chickpeas that come loose, I just like to take those off.
I see. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Just like tomatoes, I don't drain because I want all that tomato juice in there. The chickpeas, I drain.
Are we doing anything with the lemon?
So the lemon is the very last step. When you serve it in the bowls, or maybe just before you serve it in the pot, you're just going to give a spritz or 2 of lemon. And that just, gives a little lemon kick at the end. So that's right as you're serving it. Also, people will be very impressed that you spritz some fresh lemon into their bowl, because that looks very gourmet.
I love it.
So now tell me about your if you would tell me where you're from. Where were you born?
I grew up in Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm still a Squirrel. Once you're a Squirrel Hill girl, you're always a Squirrel Hill
Yeah,
girl.
my wife was born there,
Oh, really? Wonderful.
She left when she was 3 months old, but she was born there.
Okay. So she's
Yeah.
a Squirrel Hill girl.
She went to school there too in high school.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Got a connection there.
I grew up in Pittsburgh, and then I moved to Boston for my first job out of college. And that's where I met my husband. And then he got a job out here at Stanford. So we moved like pioneers west. And we moved in the blizzard of 93 from Boston, 3 feet of snow. And when I got here, it was absolutely beautiful and sunny. And I said, I'm never leaving. And here I am.
And you live in Palo Alto now. How long have you been doing this Meet My Kneads?
About a year. I started a little bit earlier with Instagram. If anybody's interested in following me on Instagram, I always post pictures of my chalot and different things I'm cooking. And so the last year has really been spent creating the spices and sharing them and bringing them to market. And it was wonderful because a lot of people supported the company, and I was able to write very large checks to Challah for Hunger and Swipe Out Hunger at the end of the year to support their efforts in changing policy to support students who are experiencing food insecurity. So I was so honored and grateful to have the support of the community to be able to do tzedakah together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. All right. Should I stir it a little more?
Yeah, you can stir it a little more. And it is ready to eat after about 30 minutes of simmering. If you have it at a boil, you want to turn it down to low, and you can cover the pot so it'll simmer on a low heat. And then you are going to love eating it. And if you have a fresh lemon from your garden, you can spritz a little lemon and b'tei avon.
It looks really good. Anyone have any other questions for Susie?
So,
I'm going to invite anyone who's in the neighborhood. If you want to come and get a bowl of salad, you are more than welcome to come and join us. Can you hear me?
Soup.
It's not soup. It's soup. I meant soup. If anybody wants to come and get a bowl of soup, we have it. It's available, and it smells heavenly. So if you want to come on by.